everyone, George the Rambling Man here. Hope everybody's doing well. It's an early Monday evening in March, and it's a dry day, which has been a little bit unusual around here lately. So I put in a good day's work and decided it would be good to get out and take a little ride, because I wanted to respond to my good friend NC Stoney, who tagged me to do this 5-question challenge. And I'm going to do that, and maybe you'll learn a little more something about me. Maybe you don't care to, but I thought I would do it. Another thing I'm doing on this vlog is I got out my old Sony action camera, and I had a couple subscribers the last few months or so say, hey George the Rambling Man, you don't ever seem to put that GPS overlay on your videos. It's got the speedometer and the mileage and time and date and things like that on your videos. We kind of like that, and I haven't done that in a long time. So I thought I would do that. It took me a while to get the video and audio all straightened out between all the different microphones, but I did that a little while ago. And I thought I'd just change it up a little bit, and I hope you enjoy the data that's down on the bottom of the screen as I take this little short ride. Okay, 5-question challenge. Number 1. What sitcom would fit my life or describe my life? That's a little bit of a tough one for me because I don't watch any of the new sitcoms. I don't watch too much really new television at all. Maybe some news and sports, and that's about it. So I'm going to have to step back in time here to my childhood, which is probably a lot longer ago than most of you. And I had a show that I used to like. It was called Leave It to Beaver. And Beav and his brother Wally and their parents June and Ward Cleaver. June always seemed to wear a dress and wear pearls. Ward always seemed to have a suit on. But they were a pretty normal family back in the 50s and 60s, I guess. Small town America, and that was pretty much my upbringing as well. Pretty vanilla lifestyle, not really too exciting of things going on, but you know, the show did have one parallel to my life. The show had a character on it, Eddie Haskell. It was Beaves and Wally's friend, and he was a little bit mischievous. He used to get the Beav and Wally into lots of trouble, and I had a friend like that growing up. Lived across the street from me, Freddie Moore. And Freddie, if you're watching this video, you know what I'm going to say is true. Freddie was my best friend, and we did everything together, and I referred to him as the king of bad ideas because he had lots of bad ideas, and he talked me into it. One of his bad ideas, we went over to the fireworks store in Alabama one day, loaded up on M80s and firecrackers and various things for the 4th of July, and they had something in there. He said, hey, let's buy these. These are called cigarette loads. Like a little small explosive charge you put on the end of a cigarette. And my dad smoked, and so we bought these cigarette loads, and we inserted them in the end of his one of his pack of cigarettes, and we hid when he came home one day and picked up the cigarettes and lit one, and the cigarette basically exploded. Didn't hurt him or anything, but he wasn't happy. And the aftermath of that little incident was not pleasant. Another time we got a bunch of water balloons, filled the balloons up with water and hid in the bushes and just tossed them at passing cars. I guess that was fun. We got a kick out of it until one time a guy chased us with a baseball bat. We were young and fast, and he was old and slow, so we were able to get away from him. But that kind of ended our water balloon throwing. So Leave It to Beaver. That was, I guess, a show that describes my upbringing. It's about as best as it could. I'm going to give a trivia question here. You can think about this while I finish this vlog, and I'll give you the answer at the end. But what's the name of the town that the Cleavers lived in? Where was the show set? Think about that. And if you know that, then you're an old guy like me. Okay, number 2, are you a dog or cat person? Well, I have to admit I'm neither. I don't really like dogs or cats. You know, I had dogs growing up. But back then, they stayed outside all the time, never had a leash. Basically, all you had to do is feed them. Now you got to have leashes, and you got to have dogs inside and house train them, and that's not me, believe me. I don't like that. I don't have any dogs or cats right now. Don't want any. So I'm neither a dog or a cat person. Do you have a little fish pond? So I guess I'm a goldfish person. Fish are pretty low maintenance. Although I was looking out my living room window this weekend, and a big hawk swooped down onto my pond, which is a very small pond, and took one of my goldfish. I mean, just flew off with it. I could see the little goldfish in its claws there as they flew off. I mean, it was a big old hawk, and that was kind of interesting to see. All right, number 3. What's my favorite holiday? I thought about that a little bit. I mean, I like all holidays, but I would say my favorite is Thanksgiving. It's almost guaranteed to be a 4-day weekend. I love my mom's home cooking. She's always the chief cook for Thanksgiving in our family. Whether we have it at her house or my house or my sister's house, she's always the chief cook, and I love her Southern cooking. And Thanksgiving meal is big, and the family's together, and I just like that day. And then when it's all over, you take a nap and watch some football. To me, that's just a relaxing, family-oriented holiday, and I love it. All right, number 4, and I'm trying to remember all these. A little cheat sheet here, as you can see. But if I was going to change my name, what would it be to? And, you know, my name is Stephen Douglas. But I go by my middle name of Douglas, or Doug. And I've never quite gotten a satisfactory explanation from my parents of why they call me by my middle name, but they did. And I don't have really any other favorites, but my wife did some, you know, genealogy research on my family the last couple of years or so, and there's some interesting names in my family. I have a great-great-great-great-grandfather, I think, who was from Mississippi. He was actually a soldier in the Confederate States Army. Died in the Battle of Thompson Stations up pretty close to Nashville. We actually got to visit his grave this past fall, and then we went up to Nashville to visit my son. He's buried in a little church cemetery right close to the battlefield. But his name was Amon, and I think that's a pretty cool name. You don't see it very much anymore. A-M-O-N, Amon. He named his son Amon Jr., and then Amon Jr. had a son who was my grandfather, who they named Newton Jasper. And the story goes in my family that my grandfather was named Newton Jasper because he was born in a little house that's right on the corner, or right on the county line, I guess, of Newton and Jasper counties in Mississippi. Now that's a family story. I don't know if it's true. They called him Newt. I think that's a pretty cool name, Newton Jasper. In fact, I named my oldest son, Ben, his middle name Jasper, in honor of my grandfather. So those are some pretty cool names. I've told all my kids, if you have boys, those are some pretty good family names you ought to consider. Maybe carry on the family tradition. All right, the last question in this 5-question challenge, I believe, is if I could pick a movie actor to play me in a movie, who would it be? I was an normal old white guy. You know, I guess there's lots of old white guys out there, actors that I could pick from. But one of my favorite actors of all time is Clint Eastwood. I loved his Western movies that he made. I loved his Dirty Harry movies. So if I had to pick an actor to play me in a movie, I'm going to pick Clint Eastwood. Now, he's a lot better looking than me, and a lot more dashing, and a lot wealthier, I'm sure. But I like him a lot, and I'm going to pick him. He is showing his age, and some of his latest movies I kind of like. I forget the name of this. I think it was Gran Torino. He played this old guy, and these kids were messing around with him, and they were out in his yard one day, and he came out on his porch with a gun and said, "Get off my lawn." And I just like that line. I think that's a great line in the movie. Just like one of the lines in the Dirty Harry movies where he's got the gun pointed at the guy, and the guy doesn't know if there's any bullets left in Inspector Callahan's .44 Magnum, and he's saying, "Do you feel lucky today, punk?" Just some great lines. I love Clint Eastwood. You know, I was listening to Stoney's video this past weekend with my daughter in the car, and kind of asking her what she thought about some of these things, and she gave me some suggestions on the sitcoms and said, "Oh, what about Family Guy or The Simpsons?" And I said, "Well, I've never watched The Family Guy or The Simpsons, so I don't know." And she just laughed, and she said, "Yeah, that might be a little bit far out for our family." And she says, "Mom really doesn't approve of Family Guy anyway." It's not very appropriate. So that was her 2 cents worth. Okay, that's my answers to the 5-question challenge. Not a lot of exciting stuff there, but thought I would just do it since my good friend NC Stoney and fellow motovlogger asked me to do it. It's a nice cool evening here. It's nice and dry. Good to be out on my motorcycle. It's going to be raining the rest of the week, so I had to get out here this evening. Did get a little chance to ride in Arizona on that street glide, which was a lot of fun back in January. But I hadn't been out much on the boulevard here. This winter has been so cold and wet. But spring is coming. Riding season's around the corner. And I hope you guys get a chance to get out and ride yourself as I head back into my neighborhood, headed home. Everybody have a great week. This is George, your Ramble Man. So long, everybody.